Hello everyone and welcome to the Big Reset. Now in this series I want to try and reset the entire human race back to default settings. And yes, I know that's a bold claim, probably insane, but hear me out because something is catastrophically wrong. We've got the rise of extreme masculinity, extreme feminism, extreme religion, extreme left and right wing politics, extreme gender ideology, and just extreme stupidity. Why is everything being cranked up to 11 at the moment? Well, here's the thing. In physics, massive polarization always precedes a stable change of state. So don't panic. What looks like civilization losing the plot is actually just the last ugly spasm before something genuinely better takes hold. And that's going to be the human revolution. Catalyzed, fittingly, by the country that brought you the industrial one. Now, none of us can really point to one person or event that broke everything. All we can see is when we look that all things start as simple binary. Something is either in action or still, and then grow in complexity over time. But I can tell you this. Good people staying quiet while bullies run amok is basically a subscription service for making everything worse. And that's what we've been doing. Bullies will always escalate when unchallenged. Always, without exception. People may say the system's broken, but it isn't. The system is just being abused by the same flavour of selfish, greedy bully that's always existed, and they permeate everywhere. And so we have two choices. We wrap every system in so much red tape that you need a law degree just to buy a bus ticket, or we fix the human behaviour driving the abuse in the first place. Instead of thousands of guardrails on the system, we install guardrails onto people. So how do we do that? The first guardrail is race. Somebody points at us and says, "You're white and you're black." And then build an entire operating systems around those differences. And here's the reset though. The human genome is magic. It adapts faster than any other DNA on the planet. A few centuries in intense heat, the skin turns permanently dark. A few centuries in the cold, it lightens. So that's not division. It's breathtaking, rapid environmental adaptation. A source of awe, not a weapon. An arsehole is an arsehole because of how they act, not their ancestral adaptation to a climate. So nobody's DNA is chosen by God. A race as a source of division or superiority is imaginary, and we should treat it as such. So the second guardrail, obviously then, is religion. At some point, somebody tells a child, "There's a bearded bully in the sky watching everything you do, so be good, or he'll torture you for all eternity." Now that's what I call cognicide. It's the deliberate destruction of critical thinking. Because standing up to bullies is part of why we exist. A mind raised to accept that kind of framework is being softened up for bigger lies that follow. If our critical thinking skills don't kick in once we become of age, we're stuck in a permanent fantasy land. The perpetual childhood of narcissism with mental health that can only deteriorate over time. There has to be a clear line between what is real and what is imagined. And that's not just good philosophy, it's basic mental hygiene. So the third guardrail is reality itself. Just because we can imagine something doesn't make it real. I can't stress that enough. Our minds and our mathematics can hallucinate some truly spectacular nonsense. Parallel dimensions, the multiverse, living in a simulation, time travel, all beautifully imaginative, but totally divorced from how things actually work. And also dangerously useful for convincing you that your actions in this life do not matter. They do, enormously. The universe went to considerable trouble to create you and me and everybody else. And you're not here by accident. The crazy part is once your ears are unclogged, you'll hear the deep roar in your bones that's been trying to be heard over all this noise, telling you these hallucinations are either nonsense or at best just a metaphor. Otherwise, we would see evidence of their existence beyond just some scribblings on a page. The fourth guardrail is political ideologies. There's always attempts to twist narratives away from reality. The Blair years with his disgusting spin doctors, and then 14 years of Tory lies after that. We're just exhausted from the mental abuse caused by all that childish nonsense. So I can fully get why people want to protest vote against all of that, but then why use that protest vote to say, "I'm done with all of these children in power, so I'm going to vote for the most childish, the most idiotic people, and then put them in power instead. That'll teach them." You're actually saying, that'll teach me. This is also total cognicide, where thinking destroys the host's brain, like see flat earthers. It's also something I like to call inversapience, the opposite of sapience. You see everything backwards. Although you're a sapient creature, reality is completely inverted. Allowing this man with his brand of cognicide and inversapience to eat our brains, metaphorically speaking, is just crazy. We can see he's got very enlightened policies. At least they're very easy to explain to people. We can just look into the world. Vladimir Putin is robbing his country blind with similar policies. Viktor Orban followed this same example. Trump is doing it. Kim Jong-un did the same. They all do the same. This man will do the same too. It's just what they do. Old 9 Jobs Nigel is already looting his position for all that it's worth. What do you think is going to happen once he gets his greedy little fingers in the treasury till? Part of the reset and the healing process that we need to go through as a country is in acknowledging that the rise of these sort of individuals is a mental health issue, not actually political movements. They are symptoms of people with poor mental health. Listen to the bloke speak for 5 minutes and you know he's not a well person. He shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the levers of change. And part of that perversion of the system is from the tech bro oligarchs. They're using their algorithms to twist meaning and common sense to breaking point. Like they've changed the meaning of the word liberal, when in reality all human beings are liberal, so long as your default settings are installed and you're not succumbing to poor mental health spread by these type of people. If you don't believe me, here is the dictionary definition of a liberal. Respects others' opinions, but that doesn't stretch to opinions that dehumanise other people. I mean, you can't accept unacceptable behaviours. That is what guardrails are for. That's just having basic humanity and humility, knowing you're not always right, but you will call out something that is very wrong. So next we see liberals fight for individual rights. That's the right to free speech, our NHS, workers' rights, other social safety nets. Liberals fight for civil liberties, the right to a fair trial, protection from government overreach, policing by consent, not by force. We embrace democracy, which means we talk about our problems, we don't resort to violence. Free enterprise, which means if you are innovative and you come up with good ideas, you get to keep them. The state doesn't steal them off you. You can make something more of yourself. And this is the part under threat at the moment, the embracing of democracy. That we shouldn't revert to violence like simple-minded authoritarian bully babies. Once you look at authoritarianism through the correct lens, you see that authoritarians can only think in very simple binary terms. And then you can't unsee it. They are never playing 4D chess. They try to sell us that BS because they know they're always the stupidest person in the room and they're very insecure about it. So their minds are only capable of asking one very simple question, and once you see it, the same question being processed over and over in their brains. Is this good for me or is it bad for me? That is it. That is the only question they ever ask. You'll see it in press conferences. They'll get immediately angry as soon as somebody asks them a question and they process that and the answer comes back as, oh, this is bad for me. Instant aggression. They don't figure anyone or anything else into their thought processes. And this is identical to how prey animals think. They just are not complex problem solvers. They only look after themselves. And that's what attracts them to positions of power. They take advantage of people that are having mental health issues to seize power. And once you see that, you know fundamentally they should never be allowed inside a democratic system. It's like trying to mix oil and water. The two just won't ever go together. They will always split and go their own way. Someone who is that cognitively impaired and mentally unstable should never be near the levers of change. They are a fundamental failure to adapt and evolve, which is why they're always obsessed with going back to the past, make blah blah great again, whether it's that or that, it's the same pattern. So now that I've reset the word liberal back to default settings, how can anybody actually be in their right mind and not identify as one? Why would you not want all of those things associated with liberalism? Surely that is the default setting of a human being. There's nothing evil there, only good things. So try your best not to listen to the demonization of liberalism. So that is fundamentally why the algorithms that suit the oligarchs, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to demonize goodness. How else can you get people to cheerlead, whoop and holler at having everything good stripped away? So if we think like an authoritarian, who actually wins if we ask the good for me question in this? It's obviously the authoritarian oligarchs. The really idiotic part, more money, is not the answer that they're seeking. It's not actually good for them. When you don't earn enough, you're in survival mode, you're in scarcity mode, you're under extreme stress. Obviously these figures are arbitrary, it depends on your personal circumstances, where you are, how many people you're supporting, but you have a zone where you are comfortable. Once you earn a certain amount, and then once you get into the higher end, where you're earning far more than you need, you enter this survival mode state again, which gets gradually more intense the more money you have. Because the more you have to lose, and you start imagining scarcity, like, what am I going to do if I can't have my daily dodo egg omelette? That sort of imagined scarcity then compounds, because the more money you take for yourself out of a finite system, you know that is affecting the community that you live in, because you're being antisocial. To take way more than you need, you're restricting how much others can take and how much they can achieve for themselves. So they think the answer is to get more money, to protect themselves even more. That compounds the mental health issue, compounds the ivory tower syndrome, that they're above the community, they're not part of it. And they know they haven't got the support of the usual community safety net. That is where more scarcity comes from. The whole thing is a spiral of decline. Basically, they're erasing themselves from existence. So the more you restrict how much everybody else can achieve, the community gets to a point where it's serving them and not the other way around. And that's a dangerous mental health issue. They must think they're like the pharaohs of old, like believing that you can take your money with you somehow. Your legacy isn't how much you own, it's how much you can activate and empower others through your actions. That is your true legacy. Because if I do something and I create a ripple effect that finds its way through multiple people, that has a much bigger effect than just zeros in a bank account. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make any sense that we have kids aspiring to be billionaires. It's like, would you aspire to be a murderer or a rapist? To be that antisocial is just not good. So yeah, the universe isn't made from imaginary numbers in a bank account. It's made from actions. Actions are its currency. And if you're going to restrict the actions of the community that you are supposed to be part of by taking far more than you need, that is antisocial. And that's something that billionaires just fundamentally don't understand. This free will that we've been given is what we're supposed to be optimizing. That's the point of a community, is to optimize everybody's free will, not to oppress everybody else so you can take as much as you want and you'll never have enough, because you're destroying your mental health by doing that, by stepping out of the community. Our free will is like a much faster version of our genome. Instead of slow environmental adaptation over time, free will is instant evolution, boosted by orders of magnitude in speed. By possessing a powerful imagination on top of that, we boost that speed by orders of magnitude again. It means we can remember the past, we can see patterns occurring that have occurred before and know where those patterns will eventually lead to, so we can predict the future. Having an imagination, it's to be able to make those predictions, to see patterns as they start to emerge and know where they're going to end up. And that's why I don't understand why people vote far right. We know where it's going to end up. It never goes anywhere good. So you can see this, the worst in Russia and North Korea. To have no free will, no social safety nets, no hope, oligarchs looting the economy. It's kind of akin to the metaphor of being the walking dead. You're alive, but you have no free will. You just want to eat brains to try and get your free will back. No ability to grow and adapt. You just slowly rot away over time. So yeah, the growth potential of those countries is currently less than zero. Our actions that we can take with our free will should create growth, not destruction. It's the simplest way to measure if an action is good or not. Has it created growth? Has it created ripples that then ripple to other people and allow them to grow and adapt and optimise their free will? And unfortunately, we see the same pattern occurring under the US with the imbecile in chief, enabled by a gaggle of cowards and morons. Cowards attracted to these invasapient strongmen because it's like they want somebody to remove their free will. Having free will is such a massive, difficult responsibility. It removes all the strain of actually being a good person, which is exhausting if you're doing it right. Let's be honest about it. Being a total twat is so easy. I mean, ask this guy. He's mastered it. So yeah, strong men are just... Real strong men hate their boots being licked and embrace criticism. They can actually control their emotions under extreme pressure, demand to be held accountable. Otherwise, you're steering a ship around icebergs with a blindfold on. So at the end of the day, these extreme political ideologies are just symptoms of poor mental health. The lesson that we can take is authoritarians are binary and they are simple. And like I said at the beginning, all things start as binary, so you're either in a state of action or inaction, so static or in motion. That's binary. It must grow in complexity over time. So you go from something simple and binary, either in motion or static, and then you grow into something complex after that, which is democracy. Democracy is the direction of causality. You see it in children as well. Children are very binary-minded. Give them a choice of more than two, they get really confused because they are binary-minded. And then when you grow up and become an adult, you can make complex decisions and solve complex problems because you have a complex mind. Authoritarians don't. They are still children. And that is why authoritarianism has to give way to democracy, because it is the direction of causality. So that brings us to the fifth guardrail, which is education. Anyone with kids in schools at the moment, this will hopefully resonate with. So schools are geared towards actually destabilising our kids' mental health rather than strengthening it. The school system's currently designed wrong. It should be focusing on letting kids be kids, focus on practical skills first, let them develop into who they are, and then go into education. There are other countries that do this, and they have better educational outcomes than us. And also, the education system has to reflect the society the kids are coming into. All the industry is gone. The education system has to evolve with the country to reflect what the country needs. And when I say we're destroying kids' mental health, just ask your own kids. All the popular and cool kids are always the ones with severe mental health issues. I mean, which is another example of invasapience created by the bullies themselves. People with poor mental health always want to spread it to others via bullying to make themselves feel normal. Because if everybody else is as messed up as they are, they're happy. So we need to reset this cool and popular definitions back to their default settings. In those school years as well, the kids are encouraged to find their identity. There's a phrase from decades ago that used to drive me insane, which is, I have to find myself. It only serves to embark a person on a complete nonsense spiral of delusion, where you're just going to disappear deeper and deeper into your own imagination and then all the way up your own backside, rather than just focusing on what is actually important. All we should be teaching, all that ever matters, is how somebody chooses to act, with kindness and assistance to others, with a deep sense of community, we're all in this together, or the me, myself and I, that bullies want everyone to focus on. And I'm not saying that kindness and assistance and community-mindedness should be given ad infinitum. We always need to withdraw it when a primitive bully mind sees that kindness as some sort of weakness and then tries to abuse it for their own personal gain, which they always will. The bully is always the weak one. Acting with kindness takes incredible strength, but because bullies are invasapient, they see that cause and effect in reverse. They see a strength they don't possess as a weakness in somebody else. If it was a strength, they would obviously have it in abundance, which they fundamentally can't. So we also see kids exploring their partnership preferences because they're trying to understand complex issues that their minds aren't really ready for. We're just teaching the facts. They could learn about fraternal birth order science, where a woman gives birth to, for instance, boy. The percentage chance of a son being gay increases with each brother born. We also know from testing a mother's blood 20 years after giving birth, their children's DNA can still be found. It's still a safe haven after all of those years. So the point of that is, that fetal DNA growing in the womb knows it's been born into a sausage fest. due to all the same-sex DNA in the blood. Gayness isn't a choice, it's an adaptation it's like a genetic pressure relief valve, taking the reproductive pressure off the opposite sex, which would otherwise lead to tribal wars, more death and carnage. So this makes it something to be marvelled at. It's the magic of the human genome at work again in its adaptive glory. And it's just science, it's not political or religious ideology. To deny nature when a person identifies themselves to be under a certain religious or political ideology, if you then say it's against nature or just not traditional, then these are just simplistic binary arguments, not any sort of complex rationality that is looking at the facts rather than the feelings. There's no law saying you have to be gay. Heterosexuality is important. Clearly, nature also thinks gayness is important as a pressure relief valve, which is amazing. This is just the beginning. Over the series, we're going to untangle complex metaphors, dimensions, consciousness, mortality, morality, everything about our existence, and look at what a genuinely sane world will actually look like, one that we're heading towards post-reset. We're going to power wash all that accumulated decades of nonsense off the lens through which we see everything, letting go of those comfortable lies to grab hold of a blunt, jagged truth is actually terrifying, but there's a payoff. Once you see it, you can't be deceived in the same way again, not by a politician, not by a preacher, not by a billionaire selling you the snake oil that he's actually a genius, not by anybody. Now, I've hopefully shown left and right-wing politics don't actually exist. They are just delusions to distract from root causes. And there's this opinion that centrist parties have to pander to both sides and just end up pleasing nobody. And if there is a centrist party in charge, it's our job to make sure they keep those guardrails in place to stop people straying out to the extremes. And that goes for all the extremes. They're all toxic. You only ever see hate in the extremes. Shall we go deeper? Join me in the next parts on our reset journey. I promise I'll get better at this. Check out the next videos. There'll be one where we do a deep dive into metaphors, which is more interesting than it sounds because we can actually answer questions like, is there a God? There'll also be one about dimensions, so I'll be able to show that physicists are lying, but they don't actually realise they are, completely by accident, just based on mathematical hallucinations. Hopefully see you in the next ones. And if we get 1 million likes on any video or 1 million subscribers by November, yes, I know that's impossible, but I will personally buy a plane ticket to America and citizens arrest Donald Trump for his crimes. America seems to be populated by spineless cowards at the moment, so I don't understand why somebody just doesn't knock on the door of the White House and go in there and put a pair of handcuffs on him. Or is that just too simple, too obvious?